The reception hall glowed under rows of amber string lights, a warm world built for couples on a crisp November evening. Yet in the farthest corner, Daniel Carter sat alone, shoulders drawn inward as if trying to disappear before anyone noticed his empty chair. Conversations blurred around him. Laughter, clinking glasses, the choreography of people who belonged. Then Emily Hayes walked in late, scanning the room until her gaze stopped on him. Something in the way he sat, too still, too practiced, pulled her toward that back table before she understood why. She leaned close enough for only him to hear. "You're planning to leave," she said. Daniel didn't look up. "Staying just makes people wonder what's wrong with me." But Emily didn't move. Her eyes held his with unexpected force, and in that charged second, the night shifted, quietly, sharply, toward a moment that would break every unspoken rule in the room. What she did next would stun the entire wedding and rewrite Daniel's place in it. If this story grips you already, like the video and subscribe to Canada's Heartfelt Tales for more unforgettable moments. The moment Emily's words hung in the air between them, the reception lights seemed a little too bright, too sharp, as if the room itself sensed a shift it wasn't prepared for. Daniel tried to steady his breathing, but every muscle in his body remained tense, coiled from years of slipping out before anyone could give him a reason to regret staying. Emily stayed beside him, not touching him, but her presence felt like a line drawn in the floor. He wasn't invisible here, not tonight. But the room didn't make it easy. A cluster of bridesmaids at the bar had already noticed the two of them. The tallest one, a woman named Olivia Marks, watched them with a smirk tugging the corner of her wine-painted mouth. Her dress shimmered under the warm lights, but her expression was cold. Practiced from years of social games, she always assumed she'd win. She leaned toward her friend, voice cutting through the music just enough for Daniel to catch it. "Please. She's sitting with him. At a wedding. That's tragic." The words hit harder than they should have, mostly because they matched the ones Daniel had been telling himself for years. He lowered his eyes, but Emily heard them too. Her posture sharpened, jaw tightening with a quiet anger she wasn't ready to show. At least not yet. Before she could answer, Olivia strutted toward them with the confidence of someone who never feared consequences. She rested one manicured hand on Daniel's table, her smile sharp as glass. "Sweetheart," she drawled, "this is a wedding, not whatever lonely convention you crawled out of. Emily, darling, you can do better." Emily didn't stand. She didn't flinch. But her voice was steel. "Back up, Olivia." Olivia laughed lightly, the kind of laugh people use when they believe they are untouchable. "Relax. I'm just concerned. Sad. He looks like he wandered in by mistake. Don't pretend he belongs here." The comment landed harder than a shout. Daniel felt the old instinct rising, the urge to shrink, to vanish, to let the insult wash over him like every offhand dismissal he had collected through adulthood. His fingers curled around his napkin. Emily rose slowly from her chair. She didn't raise her voice, but the calm in her tone was electric. "Olivia, walk away." "Or what?" Olivia taunted, stepping closer. "You'll give a speech." "Sit down, Emily. You always overreact. He's a social ghost. People like him. That's enough." Emily's voice sliced through the music. It wasn't loud, but the conviction in it drew eyes across the room. Olivia blinked, startled, as if she had never been spoken to like that by someone without formal authority. Daniel's throat burned. He hated confrontation. Hated being the reason someone else was dragged into one. "Emily," he murmured, "please. Just let it go." She turned to him, her expression softening, but only for him. "No, Daniel. I won't." Olivia rolled her eyes. "God, you two are dramatic. He's pathetic. You're delusional. And this whole..." Emily stepped forward. "Say one more thing about him." The room fell into a brief hush, not silence, but a tension that could be felt like pressure on the skin. Olivia hesitated, then scoffed and walked away, tossing over her shoulder. "This night is too expensive to waste on nobodies." Emily returned to her seat, but Daniel wasn't the same man who had been shrinking moments earlier. Something inside him, some small, long-neglected part, stirred awake. Her defense didn't embarrass him. It steadied him. But the night was far from finished with them. As the DJ shifted into a slow song, Olivia reappeared at the microphone with a champagne flute in hand. The groom looked surprised, but not concerned. She was, after all, one of the bride's oldest friends. What harm could she possibly do? Plenty. Everyone, Olivia called out. Before we get too sentimental, let's acknowledge something. Not everyone here came to celebrate. Some people just came to fill a chair. Emily stiffened. Daniel's pulse thudded like a drum. Olivia lifted her glass, her eyes glittering with malice. Let's toast to the people who don't belong, who show up alone, sit in corners, and hope no one notices their pity party. As laughter bubbled from her table, the groom's jaw dropped. The bride gasped. Daniel felt the weight of 100 eyes turning toward him, not with hostility, but with discomfort, another kind of pain he knew well. Emily moved. She didn't ask permission, didn't hesitate. She walked straight toward the DJ booth with steps that sharpened the air around her. Daniel felt the room shift again, not away from him this time but toward something else, something breaking, something rebuilding. She took the microphone from the DJ, who didn't dare refuse. Her voice was calm, colder than ice. Sit down, Olivia. Olivia scoffed. You don't get to tell me. Sit down. The authority in Emily's tone cracked through the hall. Conversations stuttered to silence. Even the bride and groom stared. Olivia froze, then slipped awkwardly back to her seat. Emily waited until the whispering faded. Since Olivia wants a toast, she began, let's make one worth remembering. Her gaze swept the crowd before landing softly on Daniel. That man in the back. He didn't come here to be anyone's target. He came because he was invited. He came because he matters. He came because he shows up, even when people like Olivia try to convince him he shouldn't. Olivia's face reddened. Emily, stop. I'm not finished. The entire room leaned forward. Daniel Carter has spent years raising his daughter alone, working 2 jobs at times, helping neighbors without being asked, showing up for people who didn't always show up for him. And tonight he tried. He really tried to be part of something. Emily's voice warmed, but her spine remained unbending. You don't get to decide who belongs, Olivia. Not here. Not anywhere. The bridesmaid looked humiliated, shrinking for the first time that evening. Emily set the microphone down. But the room wasn't finished. The bride stood first. Olivia, she said sharply, you owe Daniel an apology. Her voice trembled, not with fear but with fury. You embarrassed my guest at my wedding. Get up. Olivia's lips parted, stunned. You can't be serious. Now. Olivia rose shakily, eyes darting around for support. There was none. She took 2 steps toward Daniel, every movement stiff. I'm sorry. Daniel didn't respond immediately. The hall waited, breath held. He finally nodded once. Thank you. It wasn't forgiveness. It was dignity reclaiming its place. But the consequences didn't end there. The bride turned to the planner. Remove Olivia from the wedding party photos. All of them. She's done. Olivia gasped. You can't just erase me. Watch me. And with that, security escorted her outside. The murmurs followed her like a trail of falling glass. The humiliation she intended for Daniel had become her own. The emotional energy in the room shifted again, away from cruelty, toward something sturdier, kinder. People approached Daniel not with pity, but respect. Few apologized. The groom shook his hand firmly and pulled him into the next round of celebration. Emily returned to his table, but this time, she didn't sit beside him out of obligation. She sat beside him because the room finally saw what she had seen from the beginning. Still want to leave? She asked softly. Daniel breathed out slowly. For the first time in years, the air didn't feel heavy. No, he said. Not tonight. The music picked up. Laughter softened into something genuine. A few guests pulled Daniel into conversations, not because they were told to, but because they wanted to. And yet the night's final revelation had not arrived. As Daniel stepped outside for air later, the cold breeze brushing his face, Olivia stood in the parking lot, crying, arguing with the bride's brother, who was returning her car keys after removing her from the venue list. Even in anger, she looked smaller, every bit of her cruelty exposed under the unforgiving glow of the lot lights. Emily joined Daniel outside, her voice barely above a whisper. She thought she could take from you because she believed she'd never pay for it. Daniel watched as Olivia drove off, taillights disappearing into the dark. People like her usually don't. Emily looked at him, eyes soft but sure. Tonight she did. Because you finally stayed long enough to let the truth land where it belonged. Daniel didn't respond. He didn't need to. The night had spoken for him. And what came next would change everything. When Daniel stepped back inside, the room felt different in a way he couldn't quite name. Nothing about the decor had changed, yet something in him had. People greeted him with an ease that hadn't existed an hour earlier. But the real shift lived in the quiet steadiness settling behind his ribs. He no longer moved like someone waiting for the world to shrink him. He walked with the calm of a man who finally understood that being seen wasn't a favor. It was a right he had earned simply by enduring. Emily caught his eye from across the room, her expression warm, unhurried, as if she sensed the new weight he carried and trusted him to hold it. He joined her near the fading lights of the dance floor. And for a moment neither spoke. They didn't need to. The night had already said enough. Later, as the last song drifted through the speakers, Daniel noticed a single candle flickering on an empty table. Its flame stood steady even as the doors opened to the cold outside. Something about that small, stubborn glow stayed with him. And as he walked out beside Emily, he realized the truth. Sometimes it takes one voice, one moment of courage to bend a life toward something better. If this story moved you, please like, share, and help Canada's Heartfelt Tales grow by subscribing for more unforgettable stories.